Welcome back to the Make It Count podcast.
I'm Marcus Mire, founder of Mire Group CPAs and the Total Control Accounting System.
And I'm Tyler Warner, small business owner with a lot of accounting questions.
All right, Tyler, today I'm excited about this episode.
Me too.
If you've listened, I'm sure you have, loyal listeners for...
Yeah. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Right. You've heard me mention Quinton, right? Mm-hmm. In the office next door. All right, so today we've got Quinton Autin on the show. I'm excited on the podcast. And in all seriousness, he's going to bring, what do we call it?
A case study.
A case study, yeah. So I mentioned Quinton a lot because he's doing some really cool things with his clients and in Zero, cloud accounting. But I'm going to get Quinton to kind of give us a little bit of backdrop of what he's doing with one of his real estate clients, and then we'll kind of dive into some questions and kind of see what he's up to.
Yeah, so I guess we can start from the beginning where they were doing some real estate accounting in-house.
Well, sorry to interrupt you already,
Yeah.
but we need to tee up like the whole thing is basically a case study on real estate.
Yeah. So I
accounting.
didn't see the stuff. That's why I'm the co-host.
Yeah.
I'm not the host, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I got to keep us on task.
No,
here.
I appreciate that. That's why we got you here. No, what we're talking about is a client who's got a bunch of rental properties.
Yeah.
And managing them, I wouldn't say in a haphazard way, just not in a super efficient way. And Quinton's brought some really good ideas of how to move them forward using cloud-based tools and efficiency and really cut out some other services.
Yeah, so this is kind of the whole cloud accounting system applied to this real estate use case. And so what you're going to hear is basically, like we said earlier, a case study.
Yeah, it's like a roadmap.
Yeah, if you were going to be, the ideal for
Correct.
cloud accounting for a real estate company.
All right, so there you go. That's a better lead in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from the beginning, the client had some staff in-house, and they had the traditional accounting for it in the desktop software, pretty much paper invoicing folks, or, by the old give you a call when rent's due.
Really?
Come on down and to the office and make a payment. Some by cashier check, some by check.
They have like a little mailbox. You could slip
I
it
would
in.
most likely. And after hours, a little slot, you can slide it in.
That sounds convenient.
Yeah, very nice. And so he's progressively gotten more and more interested in obviously streamlining things.
Right.
He has more than this business to account for on the day-to-day. He has other endeavors he's in, so it's always really the mindset was he sees this as his investment, his long-term investment.
Yeah, I think that's the guy you're talking about has mentioned to me before. He's like, I don't like the stock market.
Yeah, this is my
retirement.
Yeah. And so I keep driving home to him, well, if that's the case, let's treat it as such. Let's build a system to where it's in the background and it's working for you, and it's not taking, 4 hours out of your day to go do administrative work or have that list of clients that are past due. You have to make a phone call, or you have to be the one to go or get somebody to go knock on the door to collect those payments.
Right. Or even remember.
Yeah,
due, right?
For sure. Or, helping to manage your property manager, which property to go to when to fix these repairs, and managing the budgets of those and seeing what, or you over budget, or you have budgets for your repairs and maintenance or estimates, projections for the year, but where are you on that on that budget threshold?
Yeah, real estate's an interesting thing too, because I could see how the accounting piece, it's not like other businesses where you have inventory or you're building a product. It's idle, meaning the only times that you're doing something, there's always an expense tied to it, right? When you just said sending out a property manager to fix something, it's you're only accounting, and your accounting and operations seem way more tightly tighter than other businesses, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and just kind of give a quick, how many properties are we talking about?
Currently, all total units are about 85 right now.
Okay, so 85 doors.
85 doors, yeah.
Okay. And so what you described was, I guess you said desktop. They were on QuickBooks Desktop at one point?
Yeah, desktop, then moved to, I got them nudged in the right direction, and we got to QuickBooks Online.
Okay.
Still hesitant to go all in on Zero.
Yeah.
And then finally, as things progressed, and I kept just letting them know the tools available in Zero,
Right.
how comfortable and confident we are at Mire Group using Zero.
Right.
Finally got them over that hill to dive in and go in all in on Zero.
Can I ask what was the missing piece when you were in QuickBooks Online? Like, why were you so motivated to get them from there to Zero? Because I think people still might be putting those in the same camp.
Just from how familiar we are and how we're constantly on the search for new, and this case study will show the result of this, of always looking for things that connect well with Zero, other apps that do things great that Zero doesn't do great, or they do it a little bit better, just to connect those apps with Zero to have an efficient, holistic approach and process. And so we're always on the lookout for that. So that's kind of where our focus is. And so QuickBooks Online is similar, but it's not in that wheelhouse. So we're not always on the up and up with, things that connect
Yeah.
with QuickBooks Online. And we build a lot of our processes at Mire Group around the bank reconciliation process and rules and invoicing in Zero. So we're really efficient and familiar with that process. So as all of these guys, other businesses were in Zero, and this one wasn't, we just felt like it was kind of lagging behind, and we wanted to just pull it up to apply our efficiencies and that we do to all the others into this same.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
same
and if
business.
I could piggyback on that a little bit. I mean, when we start, like when I got involved with Zero, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, it's just one of those things where it resonated with me, right? Like if the QuickBooks Zero kind of debate, and then over time, as we built this firm, staff here, everybody just kind of agreed we like it better, functionality wise, user interface wise, just feature wise. Like we just like it better. So to answer your question, I think piggybacking off of what Quinton said, we're always just we've picked Zero, we've niched on it, and so we've just said this is the one we're going to build on. And so that's what we're making. You might have a use case where QuickBooks Online might be better. You may argue that, but for us and our clients, it's been much better, and we can service it better because we can all troubleshoot it much better because that's all we do every day with that software.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's always open on all of our computers. We're always in Zero.
Yeah.
And so if I've had multiple instances with other clients, and this one specifically where the owner or his one of his employees has a question, and they'll email me or call me, and I just quickly hop on over to their account. I mean, I'm in Zero. I can answer the question in real time, and then they're not stuck anymore. They keep going and moving forward.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about what was kind of the I guess the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, from this client's perspective. So you've kind of talked about moving them to Zero, but I think they were already on Zero when they had the property manager, which most recently they had a property manager, and that was getting expensive. And you were kind of looking for a solution, right?
Yeah.
So kind of explain what kind of went into there as far as finding that solution, and then what that solution affords them the ability to save on as far as getting rid of a property manager and doing more things kind of in-house.
Yeah, so they were using a property manager, and from there, obviously, the property manager spits out some monthly reports. And from there, internally, we built a system to record all of that activity through an Excel file as a journal entry to record the monthly activity.
Yeah.
And this was still costing the client to use us to do this because those reports were pretty cumbersome, and like every month we had to ask the property manager questions.
Yeah,
so it's like, John and I are looking at this, we're talking to the client, and we're saying, hey, what are some of these line items, or what's the net amount? What does this mean? What's the true cash flow of this property? And none of us could really ever figure it out.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're doing this to get good data, and at the end of the month, we're still all scratching our heads as to kind of what's going on, and then we're still putting in more time into it. And so I let it go a couple of months, and then I asked the client, I was like, hey, how do you feel this is going? And he was just like, I just feel like I don't know what's going on. And a lot of us have this struggle of letting go of control, right?
Yeah.
And he let go of control, and now he's like grasping at the air, trying to get the control back. He doesn't know, why people aren't paying rent, why they're late. he gets some reports for repairs and maintenance. He knows what's going on for the most part, but he doesn't get the aggregate totals until the next month when he gets the report. So it's kind of, he doesn't necessarily know his net cash out until he gets that report at the end of the month. And it's kind of a surprise every month. And so
you didn't have real time.
Didn't have real time.
And you had duplicative. Like you said, he was paying us to go and decipher what the management reports were coming out of
Correct.
So somebody on the property, if you could kind of boil it down, there's cost associated with all this, right? Property manager's not doing this for free, so he's got somebody working his software that he's paying for to give you a report. I remember this. You guys were having to take it from PDF. Weren't y'all converting it to Excel to then upload?
We did, but we ended up getting the property manager to send us some Excel reports eventually.
But still,
yeah,
this is a step that's been removed based on, I'm sure, what you're going to talk about.
correct.
Yeah.
So when we realized he wanted more, the business owner wanted more, I started to just do some research and look to see what are some good softwares that can connect with Xero seamlessly and that can fit or meet at least most of the things that are his pain points. And I just happened to find a few, and there was a seminar, a webinar like the next week that covered two of the ones I was looking at. And it was Rent HQ is one of them, and Released is the other program. And they just talked at a high level of what these are. And I immediately called the client and said, look, sit tight. I think I have some solutions for you. Let me vet these out, and I'll get back to you. And so I scheduled demos with both companies and did some research and figured out which one was the best fit for what he had. And Released is more of a pitch to commercial properties because of how robust the the robustness of the software.
Yeah.
But when I gave them the full listing of the properties and what this client does, they like, man, he is a fit for sure for what we offer.
Because he wants to grow.
Yeah.
Because so Release was one more with like a lot more capacity.
Yeah. A lot more. The Rent HQ is somebody more or less the 3 to 5 to 10 properties. You kind of just some residential real estate. It can fit the basic needs of that, but the Release program is, we have invoicing from there. We have the tenants have their own tenant login to see. They have a digital copy of their leases. They have the ability to pay electronically. The owner has his own login where he can see past due invoices. He can see upcoming repairs and maintenance tickets.
Yeah.
The tenants can send their own repair and maintenance tickets.
Let me stop you a little bit because you hit on all kind of stuff that I want to drill down on. So you mentioned a couple things. You mentioned that you were out looking for stuff. So the first thing that comes to mind is, well, I think a lot of people, if they've been listening to this podcast, they kind of get this, but I want to hammer this point too. Like a firm like ours is looking for solutions for our clients that are not tax and accounting always. Meaning you were looking for a solution to help this guy run his business better. Whatever that looked like to you, you were going to do that. So that's the first thing that kind of came to mind. Second thing was we're starting this series on what I'm calling Cloud 101. We're talking about Xero being like, if your small business back office is like a wheel, Xero is the hub of that wheel, and then the spokes are all these different software you connect. And you mentioned an API integration. Because Xero wasn't meant to do detailed property management. But Released is, and Xero and Released integrate. So you get the robustness, to use your word, of Released, but it flows back into Xero, which is something accountants are used to and can understand P&Ls and all that stuff. But if you want the details, they're in there. And then the third thing I heard you say, which was, I can relate to this, and I know other people listening to this can relate, invoicing for rental properties. A lot of people think, why would I invoice for rental properties? But I would say this. It's happened to me before. Somebody either starts to pay you early or late, and it starts to become hard to tell if that was prepayment for the month or a late payment on the prior month. And it goes on, it becomes really blurry as to which one it is. So an invoice is kind of like your compass or your North Star in this sense of like, I know we're only going to match up the payments to the proper invoices because it does it automatically. I guess I'm kind of leaving out a step. And so, I want you to hit on other things, but I think people need to lead this conversation with, in the rental game, if you get a lot of properties, it's super easy to get confused as to what rent the client's paying or the tenant's paying.
I mean, a step further is those dreaded security deposits. When they
Yeah.
put those deposits down in the invoice, you have a line item on the first
good.
the first invoice. You're making this deposit, and you have that mapped to the right security deposit account on the balance sheet. Then with the property listed by the class and the tenant's name as the customer. I mean, it all maps for you, and it's easy, as opposed to having some third party ledger in an Excel or a Google Sheet where somebody else is having a subsidiary ledger tracking it elsewhere. You have it, the data's there, it feeds in seamlessly, and there's no question.
Okay, so now cut you off. You were getting into what I think lease agreements were tied to the. So I keep thinking these are all time saving things.
It sounds like it's just a full back office for real estate.
Exactly,
management.
full back office to where, I mean, you put the lease terms, you put when it's renewable, and you get alerts when
And that's all visible to the tenant, so they know, and they can. You said they have an app where they can look and be like. So I keep thinking to myself, like, you have 85 tenants. It's a lot of questions and stupid questions, quite honestly. A lot of times, like, when's my lease up? What's the late fee? What's the pet deposit? Like, so all these things, if you're thinking like I'm trying to build a system, whatever you're trying to do, the more you can eliminate the repetitive questions that can be answered by FAQs or a dashboard, like you're saving time. So, I mean, I know with this particular client, that's probably a big push because he's only going to get bigger.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, and now, I mean, the scalability of this is unbelievable. So we have all of this core details of all of these properties in here, and it's so easy to add a new property. Now that we have the bulk in there, we know how all the fields we need to enter the new properties, how to attach the leases in there. You can get images of the properties in there, and
wow.
and the idea that when something is up for lease, I mean, we have all the details in there to go out and market that property to get
So
it to
you're
fill
just
that vacancy.
leveraging- Are you teaching his staff how to work in the software?
No, release. Well,
wow.
in Zero, I'm
Yeah.
helping them, but release as part of their package. I mean, they have detailed amount of hours that they require you to have training.
Oh, wow.
They help you with a full on board of getting. They give you these Excel documents of the data needed for input. You fill it out, and they have a team that imports everything for the first time, and then from there, they review the data with you multiple times. Right now, we're scheduled. Everything's in there, but with the transition from the prior property manager, we're delayed a little bit for effective 1/1/2022.
Okay.
But we have everything in there. We are. I mean, it's pretty much ready to go, and I'm excited,
I can see your face.
And when I talk to the client, I
Yeah.
can just tell how excited he is to be able to to have good numbers, to know, look, am I losing or am I winning on this property? And if I'm
And quickly, real time.
and if I'm losing too much, I need to adjust my rates, or I need to maybe sell the property and use the proceeds from that to go buy a property somewhere that can make me a better profit.
Yeah. So how's he taking advantage of the new system?
So I think the main thing is going to be just the reporting that we're going to have, so that he can know property by property in real time, because we've always been striving to get there, and by the end of the year, usually after a lot of digging and cleanup work, we get what the property looks like. But the goal obviously is month by month we know where we stand, and so he's helping with his team get all the data in Zero, in released, so that whenever it's time to go, I mean, we're gonna go.
Well,
And it's
I think one of the things that comes to mind too is how easily accessible, or not accessible, how easy it is to produce a report that your bankers want.
Exactly.
I mean, like, if anybody who's owned a lot of rental properties or done anything where you've got line of credit renewals, or you've just got, like sometimes, a lot of times you'll buy real estate, at least in the commercial world, where it's fixed for 5 years, or fixed for 3. It might be a 20-year amortization, but it's only fixed for 3 or 5 years. And so those loans are constantly coming up for renewal because the banks are trying to, hedge their interest rate risk. They don't always fix the interest rate. And so now this client in particular can send him off quickly he could maybe filter down at zero and say, hey, I know the loan for these 8 properties is with this bank. Let's just say Chase Bank. So I could build a report in zero, or literally build a quick custom report. Hey, only these 8 properties, and call it Chase Bank Renewal Report. So anytime Chase Bank wants it, just say, hey, just send them that P&L we built. So like the flexibility you start to get, and the little bits of time savings, which is what I think people are starting to realize, is a lot of the reason for using these cloud-based software is not only having the real-time data, but it's the time saving aspect of it.
Yeah, and too, if he sells a property, you can go back and just quickly generate a P&L for a specific property.
Yeah.
Because chances are he's going to sell investment property to another investor, and they're going to want to see that before they buy it. And you can say, look, man, here's
my
everything.
I mean, just shoot your report, like a couple clicks. Here's how the property's done the last 2 years, last 3 years, last 6 months. Yeah.
And I mean, you sing John's praises on here a lot too, and John has been the workhorse on this, getting this implemented. I mean, building stuff to where we can record depreciation month by month, and he's been adding properties at a rapid rate over his last 2 years, and so the ability, the client,
not John.
So we have whatever John does, macros and all these things, to where we have a spreadsheet to where we can pull data and know if a property is added within that month, it recalculates depreciation on a month-to-month basis going forward. And so we always have a monthly journal entry to record depreciation, just to give them a good snapshot every month in real time, rather than that, the end of the quarter or the end of the year making a big lump sum depreciation entry.
Right.
So just getting a good
and
view.
Explain a little bit why that's so important.
Yeah, and so it's important. Not obviously not from a cash flow perspective, because depreciation is not for cash flow. It's just the value that we're taking as an expense on that property over the life of the property. But it's good. The client just likes to see, to project for year end for tax purposes.
Tax
so
purposes.
we get a profit, essentially like ordinary profit, and then we have some other items and depreciations in that to kind of net out to the end result. So we kind of know the cash flow.
What I'm trying to draw out of you is the impact that has on his taxes, and why you guys would,
Yeah. So we don't. So a lot of times we would do this, and we kind of have an idea in our head. This is what your total depreciation on these properties are at year end. So we're kind of do some back end calculations of, look, your profit's 200, but your depreciations are going to be 120. So you have a profit of 80,000. But if we're doing this in real time, month by month, and we have a spreadsheet that's constantly being updated to know the annual goal, there's no guessing in it. We could always tell him, hey, this is your net profit for the year from a tax perspective to build your tax liability.
So he's always got a real-time snapshot of what taxes he's going to owe.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah. No, and the reason I wanted to have him on, like, I was getting excited when he was telling me this whole system, and like, kudos to him for like searching this out for his client, finding out that there's a problem, solving the problem, and I mean, saving the client money in terms of what he was paying the property manager, but just time and efficiency. And then also, like you said, giving him the ability to scale this thing now. And it makes me think here is like, okay, how many other clients do we have that we think might do more real estate that now we have the expertise to say, man, this might be the system for you,
Yeah, I mean, from taking this in-house for him, paying the release subscription, paying his staff that he has helping him do the work, I think he still comes out saving about $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month.
Wow.
And that's just on the front end before we start scaling this thing. And I think that the staff's obviously getting more efficient, understanding what's going on. And then I think that as things be more efficient, that staff can help do other things too, to go make more money on other endeavors, to where this real estate stuff can really be essentially the passive income that's coming into him without taking his time.
You know what I was thinking of as you were saying, like all that, like traditionally, real estate rentals, like in package deals, I mean, they're bought generally on a cap rate, right? It's just numbers. But it does beg the question if, and it seems to be the thing that's been, whether the property was bought 50 years ago or now, like you buy, if you want to make an 8% cap rate, that math's pretty simple. But it also, it's starting to make me think, like if you were to go pitch somebody and say, hey, I've got a really great portfolio of properties and it's also managed very well. Like if that starts to become also a more attractive option, like, because I would think investors are looking for ease and convenience and like turnkey. If you could say, hey, you might go buy, this guy's rental property portfolio and it makes 8%, but you can make 8% on mine and look at how much easier it is. So therefore, you need to pay me a little bit more to make that 8%. You know what I'm saying? So it just starts me to beg the question of, like in the accounting world, firms are starting to sell for more if they have technology and are really efficient. Seems like the same thing will work for a real estate portfolio. If your portfolio is really efficient and it only takes one person to manage versus the other guy takes 3.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just simple.
I think too, when you start thinking of the future like that, and you always bring this up, that like once the status quo has been changed, everybody else has to rise. I mean, everything you just listed at the beginning of like, from a client's perspective in terms of
because you have rental properties.
Yeah, but I even mean a step further, like a tenant.
Gotcha.
All that stuff, a 20-year-old renting an apartment is going to expect.
Yeah.
When like I know it sounds like, oh man, for property managers getting their leases online, getting their bill pays online, all that stuff. You just named like that's how you operate as a business now.
Yeah, that's like the floor.
Yeah, that's so. I mean,
Right.
So yeah, there's gonna be like people always talk about the digital divide in a lot of different contexts, but I mean that's one that's happening where you've just got such a divide of like companies who are now just saying, okay, consumers expect the entry level is all the information, everything about our relationship between a customer and a company has to be accessible to me at all times. That's the barrier. And so now mom and pop companies, so to speak, are able to do that. And it's just the standard.
No, we talk about, you're right, we talk about that a lot. And it's absolutely true. I mean, like, so it's going to put, but you and I are kind of saying the same thing. If you're there and you've created this different experience, which is what people expect, they're willing to pay more for that.
Like I'm thinking if I'm shopping around for a portfolio, like to me, one that doesn't have that, well, that's a distressed portfolio. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's like it's like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to add all
Correct.
kinds of technology to just get this up to speed.
Yeah, and you know what also makes me think too, like, and I never thought that about real estate. Real estate, the game is it's numbers. And to a certain extent, this still is numbers. But if you can say, but yeah, it's easier to make your numbers with this system. But not only that, the guy you're talking about, think about how easy now he thinks about adding properties. Once this thing gets rolling, I'm sure it's like you talk about, it's scalable. Yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, I think that's a great place to end it. Quinn, anything else you want to say about the system? What you're excited about? If there's anything else on the horizon? You summed it all up.
Yeah,
man.
I think I summed it up. I mean, I can talk on this thing for hours, but for the sake of the podcast and not running all of our thousands of listeners off,
That's right.
I'll cap it for today.
We appreciate your concern.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Well, look, as always, you can go to Mire.group and see all the other episodes there, as well as reach out to Marcus directly. And look, I think you guys today got a snapshot of just cloud accounting in the real world when you really apply it to the workings of a back office in any industry. So, reach out to Mire Group and imagine what cloud accounting could do for your business.
And leave us a review. I know
Leave
us
a review.
It helps us out. Appreciate it.
That'd be great. All right, that's it.
See you next time.